I was going to college back in New York State to be an actor. And I met a man who was a manager of a radio station in Buffalo, New York. And we began talking, and he said, "Oh, I like your voice, and my real first name is Pierre." And he said, "Oh yeah, you're a regular Lucky Pierre," and blah, blah, blah. I said, "Hey, I got an idea. When school is over, come in this summer and I'll put you on the radio, do a little radio show, and you'll play all the current music, and we'll call you Lucky Pierre. We'll have fun." So I went to Buffalo. This is the summer of 1954, and the records were 78s. We had these big 78 records that we played. Kids started calling me and all the DJs, I suppose, to make appearances at their schools, and the dances developed. They called them record hops or sock hops. Sometimes you had to take your shoes off because they were in the school gymnasium. So I decided this would be fun, and so I bought a bunch of things. I knew nothing about equipment. I bought 2 speakers. I bought a microphone, one record player. So I'd go to the gym, put my speakers up on a little card table, put everything on, and I would play one record at a time. And when the record ended, I'd introduce the next one, and I'd have the microphone in one hand, and I would change the 45s with the other, and I became very good at it. Had to do it very quickly, and loved it. I loved being in front of an audience. I loved to talk to them. I found I was constricted, though, by playing the records, by changing and the records were only 2 minutes long, or an hour, a minute and 30 seconds long. So you're kind of busy. I loved it. I loved being in front of an audience. And from that, I started getting offers to MC concerts and things of that nature. I did quite a few in Buffalo. I ended up spending 7 years in Buffalo. I always thought I was leaving. I always thought I was going to end up acting sometime, going to New York or Hollywood. And one day I did get a call from Hollywood, from KHJ here in Los Angeles, and they offered me a job, and I rushed out here. I thought, this is it. I'm going to be discovered. I'm going to be a star. KHJ was not popular at all in those days. It was what they called middle of the road. So it was back, for me, it was back to Sinatra and the Ames brothers, and no rock and roll. But they also had a television station, Channel 9, and I did a show on Channel 9. I interviewed people on television, famous, well-known people, or people that were selling things, obviously, had a book or a movie, and I did a children's show. It was opposite Soupy Sales, and everyone was watching Soupy Sales, so no one watched me. It was so, terrible. And I had a 2-year contract. At the end of the 2 years, they let me go, and I panicked. I couldn't find another job in LA. Was offered a job as a program director in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I went to Harrisburg. Same thing. That was same thing as far as now we're back to rock and roll music, top 40 they called it, and back to record hops, and very happy for 4 years in Harrisburg. I started on Saturday morning, 1968, and I was on every Saturday for the next 17 years, from there into FM. But Saturday morning was always my time. And as the years went on, I got other positions at the station, and I was on the air at different times, but I never, for some reason, wanted to give up Saturday morning. That was sort of I was very comfortable in that time frame and had a lot of rapport with the audience. So that lasted about 7 years with KGFJ, and in the mid-70s, they had purchased an FM station, Cute 102, which they played R&B. It was also still an R&B station. They played R&B albums, and in those days the album cuts started getting longer, and they became sort of the dance mix on the album cuts. And so they had transferred me to FM, again Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning. And part of my duties, I was the promotions manager, and we had no budget, we had no money, it was a joke, but they wanted me to go out in the public and give out things. We had t-shirts and frisbees and bumper stickers. So I did that. I started going out, and they'd send me to Griffith Park or Santa Monica or Hollywood Boulevard, very well-known places. And of course, we didn't have that big an audience. And when I went out, I think, and when the station went out, they expected a black audience. But I'd go out, and there were a lot of Hispanics there. And they loved the music. And they were all telling me that they loved these long extended dance versions. It doesn't mean anything. So this went on, and of course, they did also realize that this is getting more popular, these dance things, and next thing you know, we hear about disco. Programming is like, well, you know what? We're playing these long dance, this is sort of dancing music, let's call it a disco, let's be a disco station. And they did, and they were the first true disco station in Western United States. I don't know what happened in the East, I'm sure there were more, and they did. In time, they were stations everywhere, but we were the first in the West Coast. Now, meanwhile, I'm on Saturday morning, and I'm filling in at other time on the radio all the time, and starting to get invitations to do disco dances. And now I'm not prepared at all, and I certainly couldn't see myself with my 45 record player like I did back in the 50s, And we had a softball team at Cute, and we went out and played different companies, and we played In-N-Out Burger location in La Puente. And the manager there, we played this game, and we became, and he said, "Oh, I'm a disc jockey." The manager of In-N-Out, I'm a disc jockey, and I said, I'm thinking very seriously of doing some dances. I'm getting invited to all these high schools and to do a disco dance. And he said, well, I've got all the equipment. I've got everything. He said, that we'll work together. His name is Joe Quesada. I had a wonderful time. In the disco era was my favorite. I worked through the Frank Sinatra days to rock and roll, to rhythm and blues. Disco was, it was like paradise to me. Everything about it I loved. The kids were dressed nice. There was no fights. There were no, and I experienced a lot in the rock and roll days. I loved the disco era. I cried like a baby when it was dying out, and people made fun of it, or it became anti-American to be disco. You know, you had to burn the disco records, and pissed me off.
You said you didn't have real formal training, but let's say somebody who's watching this program wants to get into emceeing work or is an MC right now. Do you have any tips or advice that you'd like to give them?
Well, I think if they, as far as tips, depending on your assignment, the MC assignment, you should do as much research as you possibly can on what you're emceeing for. If it's for an organization, it's even simple things. If it's for a wedding, you should know something about the bride and groom, maybe about the family. Not so much that you're going to be a historian or a comedian, but just to give the audience the feel that you're not an outsider who just came in and getting $75 to introduce the bride or whatever, you know. Something, as much information about the event that you're at, as much information as you can. You may not use it all as an MC, but you'll have that knowledge that you have stored that you never know when you can use as you're emceeing. And my other advice would be to, if you're introducing someone, get to it as soon as you can, unless you're a very funny comedian. If you've got some good material, and what I mean by good material, material that you've tested out on an audience. Don't say, oh, I heard this joke at the bar last night, I'm going to say it tonight. Make sure that it's a joke that's going to get some laughs and not be like, oh my God, I can't believe that guy said that. You know, that's the worst thing you could do, you know. And keep it simple. Whatever it is, if you know, don't even think about it. Just do it. Just get to the point of whatever you're there for. You're there for a reason, or you wouldn't have the microphone in your hand. You're either there to introduce an act, to introduce a person, introduce a song. If you're into the music, if it's a music MC type of work, know a little bit about something, about what you're talking about, not to the point where you're a wise ass, or, you know, like, oh God, this guy thinks he knows everything about, you know, just little nuggets that keep it light, keep it fun.